Once we gaze on your kingly brightness, so our faces display your kindness, ever changing from glory to glory. Mirrored here, may our lives tell your story. Shine on me, shine on me, shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Father's glory. Raise, Spirit, raise, set our hearts on fire. Forever flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, let there be light.
Please sit down. Well, thank you to Anthony for playing for us as ever and for choosing that song, because we're very, very close. It's not that long ago when we had the longest day of the year, June 21st or possibly 22nd, depending on how the science of it works, when we had lots and lots and lots of light. And I was looking at some information that Christina sent me when she was helping me to think about how we could worship together this morning. And she sent me some questions that some pupils at Dedham Primary School had given to her. I think she might have mentioned them to this congregation already on previous occasions. And one of the questions that these children in year 2 asked, so these are 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, one of the questions was, why do we have stained glass windows in church? Why do we have stained glass windows in church? So this morning, you are all going to help me, I hope, to attempt to answer that question. Now, first of all, stained glass windows, just in case we're not sure what stained glass windows are, well, the word stain, that usually means if you made something dirty, if you're drinking some Ribena, or maybe in my case, something even darker red than Ribena, and then accidentally spill it all down your white shirt, then suddenly your white shirt has got a red stain on it. Well, the word means the same thing with glass, because if we look at these windows around us here in church, some of them are just normal windows, like that one, or that one, or that, or most of that one as well, but some of them have got coloured glass. So stained glass means coloured glass, where patterns and pictures are in the glass. Now, I've spent, over the last 21 years, many, many hours worshipping in this church and looking at some of these windows and thinking about these windows. And also, I don't know if anybody here regularly worships at our sister church at Ardley as well. They've got some great windows there. My favourite one is the camel. If you're ever in Ardley Church, have a look. There's not many windows, not with a picture of a camel in them, but Ardley's got one. Now, there's all sorts of different things in these windows that we can see here. But very, very occasionally, Anthony is very kind to me and he allows me to sing in the choir. And on those occasions, I'm sometimes sitting up here, and then I realise that there are loads more windows with pictures here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the big one there that we're used to 7. Now, I know Christina has talked to us about some of these windows before, particularly that one, if I understand correctly. But I'm going to give you a little job now, and you don't have to do this on your own. You can do this as a pair, as a group. If you're on your own, you want to pal up with somebody, then you can do that as well. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to get up and to move around. And I'm going to ask you to have a look at some of these windows. I'm only not going to give you very long because we haven't got very long, so you're going to have to whiz. You're going to have to whiz. I particularly encourage you to go and look at the windows you might be less familiar with there, but you don't have to, because there's some amazing windows that we're used to around here as well. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to find a face. Find a face in the window. It's got to be a face that strikes you for some reason, okay? Find a face that strikes you for some reason. Make sure that you make a mental note in your mind of what it is about that face that you like. What is it about that face that strikes you? And then also have a think about who do you think that person with that face actually might be? Who or what kind of person might they be? Now, maybe for some older people here who know the Bible very well, been reading it for years and years, they might even know the name of the person. But that doesn't matter if you don't. You can have a guess at what kind of a person you think that might be, who that person is, why do you like their face. Now, before I send you off to do that, I'm going to make your life just a little bit more difficult, because a couple of ground rules. One ground rule is Jesus not allowed. Goodness me. When did you ever hear someone in church say Jesus not allowed? There's a lot of pictures of Jesus here, and the risk is that everybody's going to come back and report back that they found a lovely face of Jesus, because that's kind of what everybody thinks they probably ought to say, okay? So, no Jesus. And I'm going to be even a little bit stricter as well, because we're here in the parish church of St. Mary, although just about every parish church within about 20 miles of here is also the parish church of St. Mary. But if it's obviously Mary, the mother of Jesus, then she's not allowed either, okay? So no Jesus, no Mary. Find an interesting face, make a note of why you like it, try and think who you might own the face, who you think it might be who owns the face. And then when you come back, I'm going to pick on a couple of volunteers to tell us what face they saw and to answer those questions for me. We haven't got long. I'm just going to give you 3 minutes. Working groups, off you go. Pick 1 or 2 windows. You haven't got time to look at them all. You can look at them all after. When we have a cup of coffee, you can go around looking at them all. But right now, you're going to have to pick 1 or 2 that you think are interesting and good. Remember, we've got all these up at the front, which we don't usually get a chance to look at. And 1 to the side. Get all careful with the wires with your little ones. Oh, yeah.
I think I missed the key part.
I'll just switch this off. I'll switch this off so I'm not being transmitted. Yeah. Look, Steggers windows are looking for faces. Find a face. Find a face. Hang on. Find a face you like the look of. Make a note of why you like the look of it. Try and think about who it might be. Who is that face? Some of them are named Bible characters, but it doesn't matter if you don't know. It doesn't matter if you know who it is. Then be ready to feedback. So I'm going all primary school teacher on you here. Be ready to feedback. Exactly. Okay. And there's windows up here, windows down there, lots of windows to look at. Okay, I'm being a bit mean now. You all seem to be going into Uffizi gallery mode here. So I'm being a bit mean, and I'm saying you've got 1 minute left, 1 minute left. If you haven't found a face that's really struck you yet, then quickly go and look at another window. Find a face. Make a mental note of why you find that face striking. And ask yourself who you think that person might be. You don't have to know their name, just what kind of a person are they? Why have they got that expression on their face? If you don't know, have a guess. Why might they have that expression on their face? Is it related to what they're doing? Is it related to what's happening to them in the picture, in the stained glass? Okay, start moving back now if you haven't already done so. I'm only going to give you about another 15 seconds. You've got 15 seconds to sprint back to your place if you're not already there. And be ready with your answer because I might pick on you. I hope you're enjoying looking at these windows. They're amazing things. And of course, when you have a cup of coffee in half an hour's time, then you're welcome to look at the windows for as long as you like at that point. Now, I'm going to switch on the roving mic. I'm going to see if it causes horrendous feedback. If it does, I'll switch mine off. In fact, it's probably better if I do that, just to be honest. Switch to this. Can you still hear me? Excellent. Okay, now, I need to pick on somebody. Well, first of all, do we have any volunteers? Any volunteers? Yeah, excellent. We've got somebody who's volunteered, someone else. I love that. I absolutely love that. So we've got someone who's volunteered. Well, you all worked as a group, I'm going to guess. You worked as a group, so you've all chosen the same face. If I was really mean, because it was you put your hand up, I'd pick, but I won't. So who's going to speak for your group about the face that you picked?
We picked the lady. Yeah, we picked the lady in the middle. No idea who she is.
Okay, so this group here, they went to the back corner. That's handy because when you're having a cup of coffee, you can have a look there. There are 3 ladies in that window. They're all very Victorian, Edwardian, obviously because of when the glass was put in. And you picked the lady in the middle, but why? Why did you pick her? What's striking about her?
Kind of the way she looks down on you.
Okay, so you like the way that she's looking down, and who do you think she might be? I don't mean what's her name. I mean what kind of a person is she?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's honest. That's honest. I like that. So you did exactly what I asked you to do, which was to pick a striking face, and you were struck by that. Thank you. Right. Who else? Oh, we love willing volunteers. We absolutely love them. What's your name? Francis is a willing volunteer. So Francis, you're going to have big voice into here, pretend you're at the Eurovision Song Contest, and tell us what face you found that you liked.
The one with the big beard.
The one with a big beard. Now, I've got a feeling that there's probably quite a few with big beards here. So can you point, Francis, in roughly which direction, which window? Oh, you even know the name of the... Is it the big window right at the front? Is that the window you're pointing at? No, it's one to the right. So what that means is when you have coffee, if you want to see the face that Francis likes, you're going to have to go and have a look with your coffee. But you actually know what this person's called. So Francis is going to tell us who this person is.
St. Paul the Apostle.
St. Paul the Apostle. Well done. Big beardy man, St. Paul the Apostle. I bet he had a mega beard. And why did you like his face, Francis?
Because he had a big sword.
Oh, because he had a big sword as well. Oh, I'm definitely going to go and have a look at this. I'm not that familiar with the windows down there. I'm going to go and have a look at the end. So this guy with a big beard, and he's got a big sword, and he is the Apostle Paul. Well done, well done. So you were struck by the lady because of the way she was looking down. You were struck by the Apostle Paul's face because of the expression that he's got on it to indicate the fact that he's waving a big sword around. Who's going to be my third and final person here? Third and final person. I'm going to pick on somebody. Hey, willing volunteers. We love willing volunteers. Okay, Lynn, which window are you looking at?
Choices away, didn't you? Because I've got all sorts of favourites, but I'm struck by that one over there, the figure on the right, which is actually a bit wacky and faceless, because that's always, you said, be drawn to something that, draws you for some particular reason, and I'm sure there's a story behind it, but I am always a bit disturbed by that.
Do you know, that's so interesting, because I totally agree with you there, Lynn. Again, some of you might be able to see it. If you can't, then have a look later, but right over on the right-hand side of the front, there's a Roman soldier, clearly scenes from the crucifixion of Jesus and what happened in the build-up to the crucifixion. And there is a Roman soldier behind Jesus, and that Roman soldier has no face, which you're right, is really really disturbing. I've often asked myself, when sitting in church, whether it's supposed to be like that or if it's kind of just worn off over time. I think it's probably just worn off over time, but it really does give a very, very, very kind of scary effect, doesn't it? So we've looked at stained glass windows, and we've just had only a chance just to think for a couple of minutes, just 3 different people, about what the impact of those windows have on us. And remember, we're asking ourselves the question, why do we have stained glass windows in church? And I think we've begun to answer that question, because I think if someone were to say, well, just because it looks nice to have a bit of colour, no. That's not the answer, because if it just looked nice to have a bit of colour, then we just have nice, pretty coloured patterns, maybe with a few flowers or what have you, which would be lovely. But there are loads and loads and loads of faces. And those faces make us react emotionally to what we're seeing in the windows. Let's park that thought and let's sing again, Anthony, if that's okay. We're going to sing our second song, From Heaven You Came, or we probably know it as Lord, I Lift Your Name on High. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong bit there. It's Lord, I Lift Your Name on High. So let's stand and let's sing this together.
To sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay. From the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky, Lord, I lift your name on high.
Thank you. Please sit down. I'm just going to read a little bit from the Bible, from the Gospel of John, chapter 11. It's a story, something that happened to Jesus. It's quite long, so I haven't got time to read the whole thing. I'm going to read what happens at the end and just quickly explain to you what's happening here. Jesus is in his ministry, but Jesus has got some really good friends. There's a family that he's really, really good friends with. It's a brother and 2 sisters. The 2 sisters are called Mary and Martha, and they've got a brother called Lazarus. And Lazarus is a particular friend of Jesus. And Jesus is out doing his ministry when he gets some really, really, really bad news. And the bad news is that his great friend Lazarus has fallen ill, and he's so very, very, very ill that he has died. Jesus is really, really upset, and he rushes back to where Mary and Martha and Lazarus lived, even though that puts him in great danger, because he's just run away from there because people wanted to stone him to death. But he's gone back anyway. And when he gets there, he's met separately by the two sisters, Mary and Martha, but they both say the same thing to him, and they both say, "Oh, Jesus, if only you'd been here, then you could have saved our brother Lazarus. If only you'd been here, Jesus, then you would have healed him and he'd still be alive. But because you weren't here, he's now dead, and we've lost him." So Jesus asked to be taken to his tomb, to the place where Lazarus was buried. And this is what John tells us happened in his gospel. Jesus, once more deeply moved, came to Lazarus' tomb. It was a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. "Take away the stone," said Jesus. "But Lord," said Martha, the sister of the dead man, "by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there for 4 days." Then Jesus said, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone. Then Jesus looked up and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this for the benefit of the people standing here, that they may believe that you sent me." When he'd said this, Jesus called in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, his hands and feet wrapped with strips of linen and a cloth around his face. And Jesus said to them, "Take off the grave clothes and let him go." So Lazarus had died, buried in a tomb, but Jesus raised him from the dead. So, quick question. Can anybody work out why I might be reading this amazing story to you right now, where Jesus, if we'd read the whole chapter, we would have read Jesus say some very famous words, where Jesus says, "I am the resurrection and the life." Who thinks they might be able to work out why I'm reading this story right now? I can see a few eyes. I can see a few eyes moving. Maybe people who, like me, spent a lot of time worshipping in church. Come on, somebody with the moving eyes. Yeah. Why do you think? Is there a reason why I'm... Yeah, why do you think? Is there a reason why? Because the vicar told me. Well, Merv gave you the answer. Oh, not that vicar, a different vicar. Oh, a little while ago, yeah? Oh. It was. Okay. And what were you just looking at a minute ago? Yeah. Now, over here. Look what we've got over here. I love these windows so much. Because here is a scene, the key scene from the story of Lazarus in the window. You've got Jesus in the middle. You've got behind Jesus, Mary and Martha. And look at the expression on their faces. I love the expressions on their faces. They've both been created by the artist to obviously look very distraught because of the death of their brother. And then on the right-hand side, they've got Lazarus in the grave clothes coming out of the grave. And again, I love the expression on his face as well. And then across the bottom, we've got these words: "I am the resurrection and the life." I am the resurrection and the life. So that window is a scene from the Bible. And many of these other windows are also scenes from the Bible. So we're asking ourselves the question, why do we have stained glass windows in church? We've seen that one reason is so that we can respond emotionally to them, and so that we can want to find out more about the truth of the gospel. Another reason is to remind us of the stories of Jesus, because stained glass windows used to be used hundreds and hundreds of years ago before anybody could, when only very few people could read and write. So they were used as a way of remembering the stories. But also there's another reason as well. I am the resurrection and the life. That window is there not just to remind us about the great story of Lazarus, but also as an encouragement to us, because so many people come into church. We thought a bit earlier about people coming into church because they're getting married, and that's a really joyful thing, but also people come into church to say goodbye to loved people for the last time. And what an encouragement it is to be able to read those words, I am the resurrection and the life, and to be reminded that Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead and that he can do the same for us and will do the same for us on the last day when we trust in him. I'm going to pray now. So if you'd like to sit or kneel in the way that you like to be when you are listening to prayers and when you yourself are echoing those prayers in your heart. And let us pray together. Lord God, we thank you for your Son, Jesus. We thank you that we can read about him in the Bible. We thank you for the power that you gave to him to do amazing things. And we thank you that when we come to church, we can be reminded of these things, not just from the words of the Bible, but also from the stories that we can see in the stained glass windows around us. We thank you that you raised Lazarus from the dead, and that you will raise us from the dead too on the last day, because we are followers of you. And we thank you for the Apostle Paul. And we thank you for the sword of truth that he carries, and that so much of the wisdom that you revealed to him is written in the Bible. We thank you that when we look at him in our stained glass window, it can encourage us to think about all the many true things that he wrote in his letters to the churches in the early times about the truth of the gospel, that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and that he died for our sins and that rose again from the dead to give victory over death, that he ascended into heaven and sits at the right hand of God, and that one day he will come back to judge us, and that we need not fear that judgment if we trust in him. We thank you for that. So as we prepare ourselves to enjoy the rest of the day, we pray that you will help us to show love and to bring love to those that we're going to spend time with, and that we will remember all the great truths that are there for us in the Bible. Amen. We've just got a few minutes before we finish. We're thinking about, why have we got stained glass windows in church? And we've got some answers to those questions. We've got the windows to enable us to respond emotionally to God, to tell us stories from the Bible, to tell us truths about Jesus. But there's one other reason sometimes why we have windows in church as well. And I'm going to give you only 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you in a moment to leap to your feet again. But I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to do one last job for me. And it's this. Either on your own or with your groups, I want you to go and I want you to find a name. Find me a name in a stained glass window, just one name. But the rules are this: to the extent that you can tell, I don't want it to be the name of somebody from the Bible. So this time I don't want it to be Peter from the Bible or the Apostle Paul from the Bible. I want it to be a name, but somebody who's not from the Bible. I'm going to give you no more than 2 minutes to do that. Leap to your feet, find me a name, come back in 2 minutes' time.
If you'd asked me, I'd have said I like his face because he's nervous.
You've got 30 seconds left. Just find your name, find a name. But someone, as far as you think, they're not in the Bible, as far as you can tell. And now let's start moving back towards your seats with the name in your head. It's going to be a name from a window, not from a plaque. Not from a plaque or a stone, but a name from a window. Maybe a first name and a second name, maybe just a first name. Okay, I'm going to whiz around really quickly because we've only got a couple of minutes left. And who's going to just give me a name that they found? You probably don't know who this person is or anything about them, but let's just hear the name. Have you guys got a name?
Charles?
Thank you. So we've got somebody called Charles. Which window did? The back right, and the name was Charles. Who else found a name? Did we find a name here?
There's 3 names on there, and one of them says Wilkinson.
Yeah. Thank you. So this window over here, the bottom in the middle, in fact, we've got John Wilkinson and we've got Anna Maria Wilkinson as well. Let's just have one more. Is there one? Yeah, one more over here.
Marianne Jackson, over in the corner over there.
That one there. Thank you, sir. And we've got Mary Ann Jackson over there. So we've got, these are all people I don't know anything about them. Mary Ann Jackson I don't know about. The Wilkinson family I don't know about. Oh, and we've got Frances wants to tell us a name that she's found.
Mary Ann Jackson.
Mary Ann Jackson. Where did you find that name, Frances? This window here. Oh, I can see at the bottom. Mary Ann Jackson. So remember, we're asking ourselves the question, why have we got these stained glass windows? And I wanted you to find those names because there's one last reason why we've got these stained glass windows. And is anyone brave enough to put their hand up and say, what might that reason be why we've got the stained glass windows when we've been looking at all those names? Come on, that is a big clue. Or just shout out in your biggest voice there, Ruth, why might that be? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ruth. In memory of people who have died, to help us to remember not just stories from the Bible, as important as that is, and truths about Jesus, and to respond to those truths, but also as a way of remembering people who've gone before us in this church and in this parish who have served, or maybe just because they were very, very, very loved. And the people who really, really, really loved them just wanted them to be remembered. Maybe they worshipped here a lot. Maybe they got married here, like those 4 couples whose banns we read earlier. So they are some reasons why we have got stained glass windows in church. I hope I've whetted your appetite whenever you get an opportunity to wander around the church and to look more closely at all kinds of detail. We're going to finish by singing our last song, and then it will be time for us to have a cup of coffee. And, he's at the organ. That's why I've lost him. That's why I've lost him. We're going to finish by singing, not this one, I don't think, but the next one, Angel Voices Ever Singing. Because goodness me, we didn't even have a chance to think about angels. There's millions of angels on these windows. Maybe you can do a bit of angel spotting later. Let's stand and sing together, Angel Voices Ever Singing. worship with us this morning, I'm going to say, let us go in peace to love and serve the Lord. And you say back to me, in the name of Christ, amen. And then please do stay and have coffee with us. So let us go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
In the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.